Okay, let's get started here with doing continuous delivery on the Google Cloud Platform. First step is we need to create a repo. So I'm going to go to GitHub and I'm going to just call it delivery, keep it really simple. Set up a public repo, initialize this with a README file, and also set up a ignore file that will get rid of artifacts. I'm going to select this icon here, Google Cloud Build, so that it can build with the Google Cloud build system. Okay, that looks like that's successful. And then I'm going to go over here, and you can see here this is the clone command. Now I'm going to go over to this cloud platform here next, and I'm going to create a new project. And I like to match up the project names with what I'm working on. So what I'll do here, I'll scroll this screen down a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll call this delivery. What did I call this? Delivery. Yeah, delivery. Also pay attention to the billing account. You must have a active billing account or this is not going to work for you. That's a common error. Okay, that's done. I'm going to go ahead and say create. And this should be pretty quick here when you first create your project. And typically the next step here is that you want to make sure it's selected. And in fact, potentially you would want to get rid of this Cloud Shell environment if you had another project. So maybe I would say restart, right? And that would allow me to reinitialize everything, make sure that nothing's going to get confused with one thing or another. It's really easy in these cloud-based environments to, lose track of where you're at or what project you're on. So this will take just a second. And another thing to point out while this thing's provisioning is that we're going to have to set up SSH keys for the first time. So if this is a new Cloud Shell environment, you do have to set up the initial SSH key connection. If you've already set it up, you don't have to, but I'm going to go through and demonstrate exactly how to do that. Okay, looks like it's getting ready to wake up here. All right, so it's back. You can see the project is set to GCP delivery. That's not what we want. What we want is we want it to set to delivery. So I closed that, I woke it back up again, and now it's actually set to the right project, delivery. And I'll show you later how to do that. But first things first, let's set up the SSH keys. So SSH keygen -t RSA. There we go. And the next step here is I'm going to paste the public file, not the private one, the public one, into GitHub. So I'm going to run the cat command. There we go. Put this in. And next up, I'm going to go over to GitHub. Go ahead and select settings here. Go to SSH and GPG keys. Create a new one. We'll call this delivery and paste that in there. And if that's successful, I should be able to clone this, take this location, and then run a git clone. So let's go ahead and try that out. Git clone, does it work? Great. Okay, so we got things set up. That's a good first step. I'm going to cd into this delivery. And now that I'm in this directory, I'll typically create the scaffolding that I've showed in other videos. And I'm going to select this launch editor command. This will give me a slightly richer environment so I can use an IDE and start to develop against that IDE. So it's let that thing go. Okay, great. It looks like it's opened up here. And then from here, what I'll do is I'll just make some files. So I'll say touch make file. What else do I want to make in here? I want to make a requirements file, like this, and then I'll also make a app.yaml file, and I'll also make a main.py file. Really, this is going to be the scaffolding for my application. So the make file will run the commands, the requirements will install them, the app will be the infrastructure as code, and then the main will be the the code that will actually allow me to run Flask. So I'm going to paste in a URL here, which is part of the official docs. And you can notice I can just grab this code here myself and just kind of paste it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just toggle back and forth here, and I'm going to say file open workspace, and I'm going to find this directory, and that's exactly what I want. Perfect. And let's just start getting to work here, and we'll just say all files. Here we go. Let's go ahead and grab this. Perfect. Okay, so open. Let's look at the app.yaml file first here. There we go. I can just paste that in, save it. We'll go ahead and say, yeah, auto save. Next up here is I'm going to open up and put this main file in here. Let's go ahead and do that one next. There we go. Here's the main file. So this one should be saved. I think it says file save. Next up in the main, I'll grab a copy of this project here, which is this main file. Here we go. And let's just paste that in there like that. And I like to just get rid of boilerplate comments and things like that. It's just, it kind of is distracting to me. And I like to just see all the code up front. And you can see it doesn't do a lot. It just returns back hello world. And this is one of the reasons I like Flask, is unlike other solutions, this is just really simple. There's just a few lines of code and there's a function and you put a route to it. Okay, that's good. What else we got? We need to open up a, let's see here, the requirements file, which I don't see that in there, which is interesting. Oh, there it is. Okay, here's a requirements file. And the requirements file, we can copy what they put inside of here as well. In this sample project, I think they have a requirements. We can go here and just copy that. There we go. And put this in. And I think the only thing missing here, I think we got all that stuff, is we got, let's see, the main file. Oh, the test file. So main test. Let's copy that. Sure. Let's let that thing get copied in there, and we'll say touch. And what was it called again? It was called main_test.py. Okay. Main_test.py. And hopefully I can figure out how this workspace will just open up all these files at the same time. It's kind of irritating that it's not doing that, but open up workspace here. I'm trying to tell this thing to set this as the workspace, and it doesn't appear to be accepting this, which is kind of irritating. There must be some, this editor is a little bit buggy sometimes, but anyway, I'm going to go here. No, I don't want to do that. I just want to save this, and I want to go to open up this file and go to the main test as well. Okay, let's open that up. Not sure if there's something I can do to make this thing a little bit more in like a tree based view. Let's even try that. Let's just do that. Maybe that'll help me fix this. Well, didn't really help us there at all, but view Explorer. There you go, View Explorer. Okay, so somehow that was hidden. That's pretty irritating. And then I think that this will tell us something here, like maybe that package is not installed or something like that. Okay, well, that's a major breakthrough, is to get rid of that weird UI. So next up here, that looks good. So then, yeah, typically what I would do is I would maybe put in things like, PyTest or, PyLint, things like that in there. Now we're pretty much ready to go to get this thing working, but it is a good idea to create a virtual environment. So what I typically do to create a virtual environment on App Engine, I think is slightly different, is that you run this command, virtual environment -- Python. And in this case, I'm going to create one called venv, but if I wanted to, I can also just call it delivery to keep that convention. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, it's creating a virtual environment, and now I'm going to say source ~/ delivery. There we go. Bin activate. So what's neat about this now is I can just do a make install, and this should install all the packages that I need. Oh, didn't put the make file together yet. So the make file, all we got to do is change this to tabs. Again, this is something that make files like, and we'll say install, add this install step, and then I believe I have another project kind of hanging around here that I could use as a template, like this my repo. Here we go. And from here, I'm going to go to this make file and just kind of copy the stuff inside of here. It's probably going to be pretty close. And then just paste all the stuff in there. Okay, so I don't need that setup. We can get rid of that. The install looks good. The test, we'll just comment those out for now. We probably don't want those for this demo. Okay, good. And then, maybe the PyLint, we'll just tweak it and just tell it to lint the main file .py. There we go. And so from here, I can do a make install like that. And not sure what those outputs were. What does that say? Python 2, please upgrade. Well, let's just make sure we're running the right version of Python. That's probably one important thing here. Which Python? And we'll just type in Python. So that's not good. Python 2.7. We don't want that. So what we should do is just make sure that this thing is using the right Python. So I'm going to deactivate this virtual environment, and I'm going to delete that virtual environment that I created, which is called delivery, and then I'm going to do it again. So this is kind of a common error that could happen, is if you create a virtual environment with the wrong version of Python. So we should just change this -- Python which Python 3 to make sure it's going to do it with Python 3. And then let's try that. And I think that was the problem. So hopefully that could save you if you had experienced something similar in the past. And then I could just go up arrow and find where I activated it before. And now if I type in which Python, we'll see it's there. And then if I type in Python, it's Python 3. Okay, great. That's a pretty big fix. And then I can do make install. Great. That looks like that's going to be successful. Now let's get into the Google hooks inside of here. So one of the first things that I would typically do is just make sure that I can describe what's happening with my project. And so I'm going to run this command Google projects describe and this variable here, and you can see that, okay, here's my project. Great, it's active. Okay, so that's just kind of make sure that everything's working properly. And now you also could run, if you wanted to switch projects, you could run this command, which is gcloud config set project, right? In this case, we already had the project set. We didn't need to do that. But now I'm going to go ahead and create a App Engine application. So I have the source code here, but I don't have it remote. So I'm going to go ahead and say gcloud app create. Great. And then it's going to ask me where I want to put this thing. I'll just, maybe pick one of these regions here. Let's pick, let's see here. What's a good region to pick? Let's pick US Central 12. So I'll just pick this one and let this create. This should take just a little bit of time here. And once this is set up, then the other thing we can do that's pretty handy is, because it's just a simple Python app, if I go here, I can actually just run this with Python. So I can just type in, Python space main.py, and it will let me run this Python app. And that's really the biggest takeaway, is that because it's a platform as a service offering, it will let you accept really, open source or standard applications and deploy those applications. So this should take just a second here. Okay, so now that that's installed, what I'm going to do is just test this out locally real quick. So I'm going to click here and just type in Python main.py, and that should run a local Flask server. Great, you can see it's running right there. And so I can actually just preview this. This is very similar to the Cloud Shell environment. You can, in Amazon, I click on Web Preview, and I can say Preview, and then it lets me see my Hello World app. Cool. So we got a Flask app working. So that's really step one. Now if I want to make it do something a little bit trickier, like maybe accept a route or something like this, let me show you how to do that. So let's just tweak this a little bit and make it a little bit fancier. So I'm going to go here and just paste that in, and actually you can see that it reruns while we're doing this. So it'll reload the code on the fly, and then all this does is just take some value and return it back to you via this URL. So I'm going to go and put in name and then some name, and it'll spit it out. So I'll go here and then go and put in the word name, and we'll put in Noah. There we go. And just returns back. And I have a fancy plugin here that renders out JSON, which makes it prettier to look at. And if I put in some other name, we'll just put in John or something like that, then it returns back a value John. So got something pretty reasonable set up here. So I think the next step here would be to deploy this. We'll call this to production. So how do I do that? I could just do Control C, stop this, and then we want to do a deploy. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to set up this deploy, gcloud app deploy. And yep, we want to do that. And then this will actually take all of our code and deploy it to another environment. So once this is deployed here, it will be available on a public URL. And that's one of the nice things about this platform as a service concept, is that really all we did was write some code here and then run a command, and it gets put somewhere else, and then Google handles all the hosting. We don't have to worry about the Linux operating system. We don't have to set up, networking. This is all configured for us, and this is one of the advantages of a platform as a service offering. So a really good use case for something like this would be a maybe like an analytics dashboard or a machine learning application that has a REST API. These would be perfect examples of how you could use an offering like the Google App Engine environment to deploy your code. So again, this will take just a second. It can take up to 10 minutes depending on what you're doing. Okay, so we're back, and I've been able to get this thing working. And a couple things to point out are that the gcloud app logs tail, what this does is it allows me to look at the remote server's logs. And so that can be kind of helpful. The other thing that I can do is I also can go to this URL, and now this is publicly available. So if I go here, delivery, we should have this publicly available application. Hey, there we go. That's pretty cool. And then I also can go here and I can put in name and just put in, I don't know, Foo Fighters. Let's see, Foo Fighter. This is the hardest part, is figuring out the name of the band. There we go, Foo Fighters. Great, so that works. So I have a full public available API. So next up here, let's kind of just get right down to what we want to do, is that I'm going to set up now continuous deployment of this so I can make changes rapidly and I'll deploy those changes to production. So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to stop this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cloud build.yaml file. So this is a common pattern. We've seen it all over the place. I'm going to say touch cloud build.yaml. And now inside of this, I'm going to need to add some commands inside to do this up. And so what I will do is go over to, I think I have a project set up that has some of these commands here. Well, it's either going to be this one or it's going to be my Hello World GitHub project. Let's see if we can figure it out here. Okay, so it says automate App Engine deployment with cloud, so enable the APIs. So let's go ahead and click that. Let's do that. Enable these APIs. Okay, so register application for App Engine Cloud Build API. We're going to use the one we just created, which is delivery. Great. We're enabling those APIs. And this guide that I'm following is called Automate App Engine Deployments with Cloud Build. Okay. And then let's see here, grant App Engine access to the Cloud Build service. Okay, I'll click on this next button. And let's see, Cloud App Engine Cloud Build, we'll enable that. So we're basically telling the Cloud Build service that it can use a service account, and that looks like that is successful. Okay, right, and you can see it should look like this. We change it. And then we've already deployed it. So we know that works, and now we just need to go through here and put this inside of this cloud build.yaml file. So let's go back here. Let's go to that cloud build YAML file, and let's put this in here. So basically, pretty simple. It just says run this command app deploy, and so in order to do that, I believe the next thing they're going to tell us to do is to add this and commit it to the repo. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say git status, and probably a lot of code is going to be in here. We're just going to say git. We're going to add all these inside and push them to GitHub. So git add star, git status. What do we got? Everything but the cloud ignore. Seems like we don't want to push that in there. So I'll say git commit. Adding projects. Also, what's great about this is it's nothing secret, right? These are all things that you could push to a public repo like we're going to do. I'll put in my username. Okay. That looks good. And then I'll put in my name here. This looks good. Okay. Right, that looks great. And then I can do git push. Let's see if that works. Let's make sure that we can do this commit again, adding project. Yep, git push. Perfect. Okay, now that that's set up, I believe the next thing is we're going to have to enable this build trigger. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And this will just hook up the events when I do a change to GitHub to this project. So we can see it's set to delivery. That looks good. I'm going to say connect project. It says one of the places can be GitHub. You also could put Google Cloud itself has a GitHub repo or a Git repo. And then from here, we're going to select this one, this delivery. And I'm good to go here. I'm going to hook that up, and we're going to create a push trigger. Let's go ahead and do that. Great. And I believe that is all set up. And in fact, it should be auto. I could click run trigger and it'll build it, but I'm going to trigger the auto deploy here. So I'm going to add like a change to this code to my API, for example. Let's, I don't know, make another one, and we'll just make an API change here, and we'll say, let's make one more route, and we'll make a route called Bob. and the Bob route will return back the word Bob. It won't do anything fancy. Okay, so that looks good. Just to be safe, why don't I just check it out locally to make sure that I don't get myself in trouble. Uh-oh, I did something wrong. What did I do here? Oh yeah, I need to make this Bob. There we go. So glad I tested it. That's a very important thing to be aware of, is whenever you test something locally, you're gonna more than likely have a better success story. Okay, let's preview this. Let's test out our Bob route. Let's see, Bob, what can you do? Bob's got some issues. I made some kind of mistake. What do we got here? Oh, well, yeah, it shouldn't accept anything. So that's the problem. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to our Bob. And there we go. Bob returns Bob. Okay, Bob is doing a good job. Good job, Bob. All right, so next up here, I'm going to commit this and go to main, push this code, pushing a build trigger. And if everything's successful and does what we want, in theory, this will do a continuous deployment to production of our new route that we changed. So this could be, for example, a machine learning route, or it could be a new functionality for a software as a service company. But that's really it in a nutshell. Let's just double check our guide here. So it says that you can view the build progress by opening the triggers. Let's go ahead and check this out. And in theory, you can look at the history, I believe, and there you can see, in fact, it is being auto-triggered by this change to master. So pretty neat here. And I believe we can even look at the output, and it will show you that it's doing an auto-deploy, and it'll even show you the target URL. And then this looks like it was successful. So let's even grab that and let's test out our new Bob route. Come on, Bob. We know you can do this. Bob, are you successful? Yes, Bob. We can always count on Bob to do a good job. All right, great. So that's it. That's a continuous delivery pipeline. We set it up from zero, and from here you can enhance it on your own.